Rain had been falling on Seattle since dawn, a thin, persistent drizzle tapping against the glass walls of Ethan Ward's apartment. He stood by the window, hands in the pockets of his gray hoodie, watching the blurred cityscape dissolve under streaks of water. It should have been a normal Friday morning. Coffee brewing, laptop warming up for another day of remote work. But his phone vibrated again, and again, and again. At first, he ignored it. Then a notification broke through. You were tagged in a story by @OliviaHayes Travels. His heart tightened. He opened it. A photo of Olivia, hair swept by the wind, sunglasses on, lips curled in a playful smirk, filled the screen. She stood beside her suitcase in their living room. Over the image, in bold white letters, she'd written, "Men always think they own you." And beneath it, in smaller text, "Going on a road trip with my best friend, no matter who gets offended." Ethan stared at the screen until it dimmed. Then he tapped it awake, reading it again. She didn't just post the line. She made it a statement. Public, performative, sharp as broken glass. He scrolled down. Thousands of reactions, fire emojis, comments cheering her on. A few calling out, "controlling boyfriend energy." And then, worse, others defending him, which only made the thread explode with more arguments, more discourse, more strangers analyzing a conversation they knew nothing about. Ethan felt his throat hollow out. Last night he hadn't yelled, he hadn't accused, he hadn't demanded anything. He had simply said quietly, "Liv, I know you care about Liam, but a week-long trip, just the two of you, it makes me uncomfortable. Can we talk about it?" She hadn't answered him then. She had rolled her eyes, walked into the bedroom, and shut the door. He never imagined her answer would come like this. His phone buzzed again. A text from Mark, his coworker. "Dude, everything okay? Twitter is tearing into some guy with your initials, LOL." Ethan put the phone face down on the counter. The coffee machine beeped. He didn't move. Their home felt different this morning, like something had shifted in its foundations. The apartment they'd decorated together, the framed prints on the wall from her past trips, the warm lighting she loved. All of it looked suddenly foreign, like he was a guest in his own life. He heard footsteps behind him. Olivia walked out of the bedroom in her travel outfit, loose cream sweater, jeans, messy bun, the look she always used for candid airport photos. She didn't seem worried. If anything, she looked energized, glowing in that effortless influencer way. "You're up early," she said, reaching for her water bottle. Ethan didn't answer. She glanced at him. "What's wrong?" He nodded toward her phone on the counter. "You posted it." Olivia blinked, then sighed. "Ethan, don't start. It's just a caption." "You mocked me. To your followers. You made me into a controlling asshole when all I did was tell you how I felt." She lifted a shoulder. "People exaggerate. My message is about independence, not about you. You literally wrote that men think they own you. It's a mindset, a stereotype. But it's tied to our conversation." Olivia hesitated, a small crack in her confidence, then brushed it off. "You're being dramatic. You know Liam is just my friend. I've told you that 1,000,000 times." "I believed you," Ethan said softly. The softness, more than anything, made her look away. The silence grew heavy. Finally, she exhaled. "Ethan, I need this trip. My brand needs it. Liam and I already planned the shoots. I can't cancel just because you suddenly feel insecure." "Insecure?" His voice stayed calm, too calm. "Liv, I asked for a conversation. Not a rule, not permission, just a conversation." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her ride honked outside. Olivia zipped her jacket. "We'll talk later, okay? After I get back. Things will make more sense then." Ethan didn't answer. She leaned in to kiss his cheek. He didn't move away, but he didn't turn toward her either. and something in her expression flickered. Defensiveness? Guilt? Fear? She masked it quickly. "I'll text you when we reach the cabin," she said, grabbing her suitcase. He watched the door close behind her. For a long moment, the apartment was silent except for the rain. Then Ethan walked to the table, lifted his phone, and opened her story again. The caption glared back at him. He'd never felt owned by anyone. But in that moment, he realized something far worse. He didn't recognize the woman who wrote those words. He turned off his phone and sat down slowly, as if his body no longer knew how to hold itself upright. A different kind of rain had begun to fall inside him, one that would not stop for a very long time. The highway stretched out like a silver ribbon beneath a sky the color of wet concrete. Olivia pressed her forehead lightly against the passenger window as Liam's Jeep hummed northward, the city shrinking behind them. The wipers brushed away thin arcs of rain, exposing fragments of evergreen forests and mist-draped hills. For a moment, it almost felt peaceful. Almost. "Hey," Liam said, adjusting the playlist. "You've been quiet since we left. Everything okay?" Olivia forced a smile. "Just tired. Didn't sleep much." "Yeah," he said slowly. "I figured. You and Ethan fighting again?" She stiffened. "We weren't fighting." "You sure? Because your post this morning is kind of a statement." Olivia looked away, watching the blurred shapes of passing cars. Her stomach knotted. She hated that small, creeping guilt inside her, the one she kept shoving aside with the same mantra, "I didn't do anything wrong." She spoke softly. "It wasn't about Ethan. It was about boundaries." "Liv." Liam glanced at her, voice gentle but firm. "You posted it minutes after he said he didn't want you traveling alone with me. People aren't blind." She didn't answer. Truthfully, the story hadn't been planned. It had come from a moment of anger, frustration, and a kind of pride she didn't want to admit to. She hated the idea of being questioned, hated the vulnerability of it. She used empowerment as armor, and her followers loved it. But Ethan, he had looked at her like she'd taken something fragile and smashed it. She swallowed hard. "He shouldn't have said that," she muttered. "He knows this trip is important." Liam kept his eyes on the road. "Did he tell you not to go?" "No." "Did he raise his voice?" "No." "So he just expressed discomfort?" "Liam, I'm not judging you," he said softly. "I just want to make sure you're not hurting someone who actually cares about you." Her jaw tightened. "I'm not," she said, but it didn't come out as steady as she hoped. Outside, the rain thickened, drumming against the roof like impatient fingers. Back in Seattle, Ethan sat at his desk, laptop open, code editor glowing faintly on the screen. But lines of text blurred together. His thoughts kept drifting back to the post, the comments, the dozens of private messages from mutual friends and acquaintances. He had muted her social media accounts an hour earlier, not out of spite, but because he couldn't stomach the public conversation built on the ruins of something personal. Instead, he opened an old folder on his computer, photos from their early days. Olivia curled in his hoodie at a lakeside picnic. Ethan laughing at something she'd whispered. Selfies of them at Pike Place Market, at a small jazz bar, on the rooftop of their first apartment. She had once captioned a photo. "Home is a person." He shut the folder. His phone vibrated again. This time, a message from Mira, Olivia's closest friend. "Hey, just checking in. I know this morning sucked. If you need to talk, I'm here." Ethan typed a short response. "Thanks, I'm okay." But he wasn't. Something inside him felt rearranged, like trust had shifted out of its place and left a hollow behind. The clock struck noon. He hadn't eaten. Hunger felt irrelevant. He closed his eyes, trying to replay last night without the sharp edges, her turning away from him, the quiet distance, the closed bedroom door. He kept asking himself where he went wrong, what he should have said differently, how he should have held her, how he could have prevented this widening gap. He didn't realize tears had gathered until one slipped down, warm against his skin. By late afternoon, the mountains rose tall around Liam's Jeep as they approached the rented cabin near Mount Baker. Pines swayed under the wind, the sky shifting between gray and navy as evening crept in. Olivia exhaled as the cabin came into view. Cozy, wooden, with wide glass panels facing the forest. Perfect for photos, perfect for sponsors, perfect for pretending her life was uncomplicated. Liam killed the engine. "We're here." She stepped out, stretching, breathing in the cold air. For a moment, the silence of nature wrapped around her like a blanket. Then Liam said quietly, "You know he saw the post, right?" Her breath hitched. She pretended she didn't care. Pretended she hadn't replayed Ethan's expression every 5 minutes. Pretended she wasn't waiting for a message. Something angry. Something hurt. Something anything to show he still cared enough to react. But her phone remained silent. No notifications. No calls. The absence felt heavier than the loudest argument. Inside the cabin, Liam unpacked his camera gear while Olivia set up her outfits, products, and props. She moved mechanically, the way she always did before a shoot. But tonight, her mind drifted to Ethan making breakfast, to Ethan pulling her close when she got cold on late-night walks, to Ethan's voice, always steady, always patient, until she pushed it past its limit. Liam watched her from the doorway. "Liv, do you want to talk about it?" "No." She didn't trust her voice to stay solid. He walked closer. "You know I care about you. But this, all of this, you're not okay." She forced a smile. "I'm fine." "Then why does it feel like you're running away from something instead of running toward anything?" The words struck deeper than he intended. Olivia blinked hard, turning away. "I'm not running," she whispered. "I just need space. Everyone wants something from me all the time. My followers, my sponsors. Ethan." "Ethan wants you," Liam said. "Not the version of you online." Her throat tightened. He stepped back, giving her room. "I'm here if you need me. But don't confuse attention with affection, Liv. Not from me, not from your followers. And don't let a moment of ego destroy something real." She flinched. He regretted the words instantly and left her alone. Olivia sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her silent phone. She typed a message to Ethan, deleted it, typed another, deleted it. Finally, she placed the phone face down. The cabin felt too quiet. Or maybe it was just her conscience, suddenly louder than ever. Outside, the forest breathed. Inside, Olivia finally whispered to the empty room, "What did I do?" And miles away in Seattle, at that same moment, Ethan whispered the exact same thing. But neither of them would hear the other. Not tonight, not anymore. Night settled over the cabin like a thick blanket, muting every sound except the soft groaning of pine branches swaying in the cold wind. Olivia sat alone at the wooden dining table, a mug of untouched tea cooling between her hands. The glow from her laptop screen reflected off her eyes as she scrolled through messages, comments, and reposts of her morning story. Most praised her. Some mocked Ethan. A few criticized her. But none of it brought the satisfaction she expected. The words blurred together, tangled in a web of noise she no longer knew how to interpret. She slammed the laptop shut and let out a trembling breath. Across the room, Liam adjusted camera lenses and battery packs. He tried not to look at her, but the tension in the air was too sharp to ignore. "Want to run through tomorrow's plan?" he asked gently. Olivia didn't answer. She wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold. Liam hesitated, then walked over and pulled out a chair across from her. "You don't have to pretend with me, you know." "I'm not pretending." "Liv," he said softly, "you're unraveling." Her eyes flickered upward, defensive. "I'm tired, that's all." "Then talk to him." Her jaw tightened. "He didn't text." So, she snapped. "That means he doesn't care." Liam leaned back, exhaling slowly. "Or maybe he's hurt. You humiliated him in front of thousands of people." Olivia flinched like he'd slapped her. "I didn't mean to hurt him. Intent doesn't erase impact." She looked away, blinking fast against the burn behind her eyes. The fire crackled in the background, filling the silence between them. "He's always been the calm one," she whispered. "The stable one. I thought he'd just understand." "That's not understanding, Liv. That's expecting him not to have feelings." Her breath trembled. "He never asks me for anything, never complains, never gets angry. And then today, he didn't get angry today." That stopped her. Liam leaned his elbows on the table. "If anything, Ethan's quiet scares you because it's the first time he didn't absorb the blow. For once, he let you feel the weight of what you did." Olivia swallowed hard. "I hate the way his silence makes me feel." "Maybe you should ask yourself why." She looked at him then, really looked, as if seeing him clearly for the first time all day. "You think I'm the bad guy?" she whispered. "No," Liam said softly. "I think you're lost." Meanwhile, in Seattle, Ethan sat on the couch with the TV on but muted. Shadows from the flickering screen danced across the room, but he barely noticed. His thoughts had drifted far beyond the apartment, pulled toward the mountains where Olivia had gone with someone who didn't have to beg for space in her life. The clock read 10:47 p.m. He picked up his phone. Still nothing. He wasn't angry at the silence. He was surprised by how much it relieved him. For the first time in years, he felt untethered. Like all the things he'd quietly held together, her career stresses, her exhaustion, her impulsivity, her fragile confidence, were no longer his responsibility to balance. He wasn't sure if that made him a bad partner, or if it made him finally honest. A soft knock sounded on his door. Ethan frowned and went to answer it. Mira stood there, bundled in a raincoat, mascara slightly smudged, holding 2 plastic bags of takeout. Her expression softened when she saw him. "You look like hell," she said gently. "Thanks," Ethan replied, stepping aside. "Come in." She kicked off her shoes. "I brought Thai food. I didn't know if you'd eaten." "I haven't." "Great," she said, placing the bags on the kitchen counter. "Then I'm officially rescuing you." They sat down. Ethan poked at his pad thai without appetite. Mira watched him for a long moment. "Do you want to talk about it?" "No." "Do you need to talk about it?" He sighed, shoulders slumping. "She made me into a caricature, Mira, a villain, and she didn't even flinch." Mira's face softened. "She's overwhelmed. She reacts before she thinks." "That's not an excuse." "No," Mira admitted. "It's not." Ethan stared at the steam rising from his food. "I wasn't trying to control her. I never have. I just wanted her to consider my feelings, to have a conversation, not a performance." Mira reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "You're not wrong to feel hurt." Ethan's voice cracked slightly. "I feel like she doesn't need me anymore." Mira's gaze sharpened. "Needing someone isn't the same as loving them," she said quietly. "And Olivia does love you, Ethan, but you two are out of sync. She's living out loud, and you're holding everything in." He didn't answer. He didn't know how. At the cabin, hours passed in slow silence. Liam retreated to his room, leaving Olivia curled on the living room sofa, wrapped in a blanket she couldn't seem to get warm under. She kept hearing Ethan's voice in her head, soft, steady, disappointed. It hurt more than any fight ever had. Her phone lit up suddenly. A notification. Her pulse jumped, but it wasn't Ethan. It was a DM from a follower. "Girl, ditch the controlling dude already. You and Liam have real chemistry." Olivia's stomach dropped. She turned the phone over and pressed it face down onto her chest, squeezing her eyes shut. This wasn't what she wanted. This wasn't the narrative she meant to create. She just wanted freedom, not rumors, not a rewriting of her relationship. Tears collected slowly, sliding onto the pillow beneath her cheek. "You made a mess," she whispered to herself, "and you don't know how to fix it." Somewhere in the cabin, a floorboard creaked as Liam moved. Somewhere in Seattle, Ethan stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Two hearts, miles apart, both beating in the dark, both haunted by the same question: can love survive a wound delivered in front of the world? Olivia finally drifted into an uneasy sleep. Her last conscious thought wasn't about her followers, not about the trip, not even about Liam. It was Ethan's face from that morning, quiet, still, hurt, in a way she had never seen before. She didn't know it yet, but that expression would follow her long after this trip ended, long after everything else unraveled. Morning crept into the cabin quietly, a soft wash of pale gold through the tall windows. Olivia woke to the smell of brewing coffee and the distant sound of Liam adjusting his tripod outside on the deck. Her body felt heavy, as if the night had pressed down on her instead of resting her. For a moment, she lay still, staring at the wooden beams above her. She reached for her phone on the nightstand before she could talk herself out of it. No messages, no missed calls, nothing. A hollow ache opened in her chest. Ethan had never gone a day without texting her something, even during his busiest seasons at work. A meme, a simple good morning, or drive safe, or miss you. She used to take it for granted. Now his silence felt like a verdict she wasn't ready to hear. She placed the phone face down and pushed herself out of bed. Liam was on the deck, camera in hand, focusing on the line of sunlight weaving through the pines. His breath formed faint clouds in the cold air. When he heard the door slide open behind him, he glanced over his shoulder. "Morning," he said in a gentle tone. Olivia wrapped her sweater tighter around herself. "Morning." He studied her for a moment. "You okay?" She nodded, but the gesture was too quick to be believable. "Coffee's inside," Liam said softly. "Thought you might need it." "Thanks." She moved to go back inside, but Liam hesitated. "Liv?" She turned. "I'm sorry if I pushed too hard last night. I didn't want to make you feel attacked." She offered a small, fragile smile. "You weren't wrong." Liam lowered his camera. "I care about you. That means I won't lie to you, even when you don't want to hear it." Something in her expression softened, an exhaustion deeper than lack of sleep. "I wish everything didn't feel so complicated." Liam exhaled. "Then stop running from it. Talk to him." She didn't respond. Because the truth was, she wasn't ready for whatever Ethan might say, or not say. Meanwhile in Seattle, Ethan was sitting on the floor of the living room, sorting through documents for work he wasn't even pretending to focus on. His phone lay beside him, screen dark. He had thought that giving Olivia space was the mature thing to do, but space had turned into silence. Silence had turned into distance, and distance felt dangerously like detachment. He rubbed his eyes. He wasn't angry anymore, just tired and strangely calm, like something inside him had shifted from clinging to letting go. A soft chime broke the quiet. A message. His heart jumped, then stilled. It wasn't from Olivia. It was from Liam. The preview froze him in place. "I know you probably hate me, but you deserve to know something." Ethan stared at it for a long moment before opening it fully. "Liam, I'm not texting to cause drama. I'm texting because Olivia won't tell you this herself. There's nothing physical between us. I promise you that. but she leans on me emotionally in ways she should lean on you. And I think you felt that for a while." Ethan's pulse slowed. Each word settled heavily in his chest, confirming something he'd tried for months not to acknowledge. Another message came. "Liam, she's scared of disappointing you. Every time she doubts herself, she comes to me instead. I didn't intend for it to happen, but it did. You didn't imagine it." Ethan closed his eyes. He wasn't sure whether the truth hurt more or the relief that he wasn't crazy. One final message arrived. "Liam, I'm not the man for her, Ethan. You are. But she won't see that until she stops hiding behind the persona she performs for the world. I hope you two figure it out, with or without me in the picture." Ethan set the phone down. His hands were trembling. He wasn't sure if Liam's honesty was comforting or devastating. Perhaps both. Either way, it changed something. Irrevocably. Back at the cabin, Olivia stood before the bathroom mirror, brushing through her hair with slow, distracted motions. She stared at her reflection, the faint dark circles, the tightness around her mouth, the forced steadiness in her eyes. Influencer, Olivia could fake anything. Real Olivia, not so much. She heard footsteps approach the door. "Liv?" Liam's voice was soft. "We can take the morning slow. No pressure to shoot right away." She opened the door, pulling her sweater sleeves over her hands. "Let's go for a walk first," she said. "I need air." They set off down a narrow forest trail, pine needles muffling their steps. The trees towered above them, branches swaying, whispering secrets she couldn't decipher. For a while, neither spoke. Then Liam said quietly, "You love him." It wasn't a question. Olivia sighed. "Yes. But you're afraid." "Yes." "Of what?" She hesitated. "Being trapped, being ordinary, being predictable. Is that how he makes you feel?" "No," she whispered. "He just sees parts of me that I'm not ready to face." Liam slowed, turning toward her. "And what part of him are you refusing to see?" She looked up, confused. "You've convinced yourself he's trying to control you," Liam continued, "because that's easier than admitting you hurt him. If you label him the villain, you don't have to question your own choices." Her breath caught. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," Liam said gently, "that fear disguised as empowerment is still fear." The words hit harder than she expected. She looked away, blinking rapidly as cold wind stung her cheeks. But then something else in his expression shifted, a softness she had seen before but ignored. "Liv, I need you to know something." His voice was almost a whisper. "I care about you a lot, maybe more than I should." Olivia froze. The forest around them fell utterly silent. "Liam? No," he said quickly, shaking his head. "I'm not making a move. I'm not asking for anything. I just need to say it so I can let it go." She exhaled shakily. "You shouldn't." "I know," he said, "but it's the truth. You're magnetic, Liv. People get pulled in, sometimes without meaning to." Her pulse fluttered painfully. "But don't mistake any of that for love," he added. "Not the kind Ethan gives you." Tears gathered in her eyes. She whispered, "I've made everything so messy." "Then clean it up," Liam said softly, "before someone gets hurt beyond repair." But as they turned back toward the cabin, Olivia's phone buzzed in her pocket. Her heart lurched. A single message from Ethan. "When you get back, we need to talk." No heart emoji, no warmth, no trace of the Ethan she knew. Just 8 words heavy enough to change everything. Olivia stared at the message until her vision blurred. Her world, the one she built, curated, polished, suddenly felt like it was cracking around the edges, and for the first time since the trip began, she felt genuinely afraid. Daniel woke before dawn, the apartment still wrapped in a blue hush, the kind that made everything feel heavier: air, thoughts, regrets. Avery's suitcase sat by the bedroom door, half zipped, a small corner of a sweater caught in the lining like a trapped breath. He watched it for a long time, as if it held the answers he hadn't been able to articulate in their last conversation. He had barely slept. Every time he drifted off, he saw her on that kitchen floor, legs pulled to her chest, tears soaking into her sleeves. He kept replaying her voice saying, "I don't want to hurt you." But hurt was already the thing threading them together. He brewed coffee he didn't drink. He stood by the window he never opened. He listened for footsteps he knew wouldn't come. Avery had left early for the airport. A rideshare. Quiet, clean, without needing to pass through him. By the time the city warmed into its late morning noise, Daniel forced himself out the door and into downtown Seattle, where commuters rushed past like they were escaping something. He joined the stream, though he felt suspended outside of it, moving and unmoving all at once. His office building rose like a sheet of mirrored ice, reflecting a man he barely recognized. Inside, the open-floor workspace hummed with the familiar clatter of keyboards. His team greeted him with nods, but no one asked questions. Whatever exhaustion lived under his eyes, he masked it with the professionalism expected of him. Daniel had always been good at hiding fractures, but even at his desk, he couldn't outrun the image of Avery at the airport, boarding a plane with grief still drying on her face. And still she went. He opened Slack, intending to send her a message, something soft, something apologizing without fully conceding, but stopped before typing. He didn't know what words would reach her right now. At 11:20, he clicked onto Instagram. He didn't intend to. It wasn't a conscious decision. His thumb just slid, as if searching for air. And there it was. A story from Avery. The first in 20 hours. Black background, white letters. Men always think they own you. Daniel froze. The office noise blurred around him. Distant, unanchored. He stared at that sentence until it warped slightly, like heat rising from asphalt. Beneath it, in small italics, she'd added, "I'm exhausted." His chest tightened, not with anger, but with something far more humiliating, the sense of being misunderstood on a public stage. She hadn't mentioned him by name, but she didn't need to. He clicked again. Another story, a photo of the airplane wing cutting through white clouds, captioned, "Freedom is remembering you belong to yourself." His pulse stuttered, not from jealousy, but from bewilderment, because she wasn't wrong. Not entirely, not philosophically, but that wasn't what their argument had been about. And yet, this was how the world would see it. A colleague walked by. "Hey, Daniel, team meeting in 10? He nodded without hearing. Another slide. A selfie. Her sunglasses reflected the cabin lights, her face mostly neutral, but the subtle tint of defiance sat in the lift of her chin. Jordan leaned into the edge of the frame, unintentional, blurry, but unmistakable. Daniel's throat went dry. He closed Instagram, then opened it again, as if checking would somehow change what he'd seen. His heart wasn't racing. It was sinking. Heavy, slow. At lunch, he walked to a quiet pier behind the office building, where people ate in pairs or alone with headphones. Seagulls cried overhead, and ferries in the distance cut white lines into the dark water. Daniel sat on a bench, elbows on knees, and let the cold air scrape against his skin. He tried to untangle what exactly he was feeling. Not betrayal. Not yet. That was too sharp a word for something still half-formed. Not anger. That would require believing her post was aimed at him with malice. No. What he felt was something quieter, more corrosive. She needed the world to validate her version of the story, and she didn't care if her version cost him something. He rubbed his hands together, the way he did when anxiety crept up his arms. "What are we doing, Avery?" he murmured to no one. His phone buzzed. A text from Lena, his coworker. Saw Avery's post. "You doing okay?" He stared at the message, struck for the first time by a new fear, not just losing Avery, but becoming a topic of pity among people who barely knew his marriage. He typed back, "I'm fine. Thanks for checking." He wasn't. He scrolled again. Another post had appeared. A photo from the airport lounge, 2 glasses of wine, only one hand visible, slender, holding a stem. Her caption, "To new beginnings." Daniel's jaw tightened. He whispered the words without meaning to. What beginning? A gust of wind swept in from the water, carrying the scent of salt and cold steel. Daniel closed his eyes, imagining Avery somewhere above the clouds, drinking white wine at 30,000 feet and sending signals to strangers about the supposed man who tried to own her. He wanted to believe she was just hurting, that this was impulsive, that she needed space and expression and maybe even dramatic emphasis. She'd always been more emotionally loud than he was, more public, more poetic, more open. But there was a thin line between expression and indictment, and she had crossed it. By late afternoon, he managed to finish his tasks, though he had no memory of doing them. When he finally walked home, the apartment greeted him like a mausoleum, quiet, orderly, untouched. A glass she used last night still sat by the sink. A cardigan lay over the back of the couch. Her scent hovered faintly in the hallway. He sat on the bed, the silence pressed in. He opened their message thread, typed something, deleted it, typed again, deleted it. Finally, he wrote, "I hope you landed safely. Let me know when you're settled." No accusation, no fear, no reference to the posts, just softness, just love barely holding itself together. He hit send. The message delivered instantly, but no response came. The room felt colder for it. As night deepened, Daniel lay awake staring at the ceiling, the dim city glow painting strips of light across the room. For the first time since their relationship began, he didn't know what version of Avery he would see when she finally replied, if she replied. And somewhere, under the ache, a quiet dread whispered, "What if I've already lost her? And she's the only one who doesn't see it yet?" Avery landed in San Diego just after sunset, the sky streaked in watercolor oranges that bled into a bruised purple horizon. She watched the colors fade through the plane window, trying to let them soothe her, but her chest still felt like a tight fist around a heartbeat that wouldn't settle. When her phone reconnected to the ground, notifications poured in. Likes, DMs, reactions to her story, the digital applause of strangers validating her frustration. She didn't open any of them. The attention felt hollow, like being cheered on by people who didn't know her name. One notification did stand out, a message from Daniel. "I hope you landed safely. Let me know when you're settled." She stared at it without moving. The softness of it pricked her like a thorn. He wasn't angry. He wasn't defensive. He was just there. "Why is that making me feel worse?" she wondered. Jordan stretched in the seat next to her, rubbing his eyes. "Long day, huh?" he said with an easy smile. He had always been gentle in the ways Daniel wasn't. Open, talkative, expressive, unwilling to let discomfort hang in the air. Avery forced a smile. "Yeah, long day." "You okay?" he asked, lowering his voice, the kind of tone that invited confession. She nodded, though her throat tightened. "Just tired." They walked out of the terminal together, the California air warm and slightly sweet with the smell of jet fuel and ocean salt. Jordan hailed a rideshare and tossed both suitcases in the trunk. Avery hesitated, not sure if sharing a car with him was a good idea, but she was too drained to argue with herself. As the car pulled onto the freeway, Jordan watched her from the corner of his eye. "You're quiet," he said. She looked out the window, watching palm trees blur into silhouettes. "Just thinking." "About him?" She didn't answer. Jordan sighed softly. "You know I'm not here to tell you what to do. I've seen you unhappy for a long time, Aves." Her jaw tightened. "I'm not unhappy. We're just in a rough spot." "But it's been rough for months." His voice wasn't accusatory, just honest, almost painfully so. She swallowed hard. "We're trying." He waited a beat. "Are you?" Avery winced. She wished he hadn't asked her that. She wished the question didn't feel like an echo of something she already feared. The car fell into silence, broken only by the low hum of tires on asphalt. When they reached the hotel, a sleek glass building overlooking the bay, Avery thanked Jordan quickly, more urgently than politely. She needed space. She needed a door that closed. Inside her room, she dropped her suitcase on the carpet and collapsed onto the bed. The room smelled faintly of fabric softener and cool, conditioned air. She stared up at the ceiling, letting the weight of the day settle over her like a blanket she couldn't throw off. Her phone buzzed again. Daniel's message was still unread, still waiting. She opened Instagram instead. Her stories were flooded with replies, heart emojis, raised fist reactions, messages saying queen behavior, men are so controlling, and good for you. Avery scrolled through them, feeling an unease gather in her stomach. She hadn't meant to start a gender war. She had posted impulsively, raw, emotional, wounded, but now, seeing her relationship reduced to a meme-like slogan in the eyes of strangers, she felt exposed, misunderstood, and Daniel, he would have seen it too. She pressed the heels of her palms to her eyes. "What am I doing?" she whispered. She wanted to believe her post was about reclaiming independence, about her right to choices, about frustration, not him. But the truth was quieter, harder. She had posted it because she didn't know how to tell him she was scared. Scared of losing him. Scared of becoming too dependent. Scared of waking up one day and realizing she had shrunk herself to fit inside his anxieties. The post had been a scream in a room where she felt unheard. But now she wasn't sure who that scream had hit. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a message from her sister Maya. "Aves, are you and Daniel okay? I saw your story. Call me when you can." Avery closed her eyes, sinking deeper into the mattress. She knew what she needed to do. She needed to message Daniel back. Something simple. Something that reached across the distance she had created. She opened their text thread. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, then paused. Because she didn't know what she wanted to say. She didn't know which version of the truth she was ready to offer him. Finally, she typed, "I'm here, exhausted. We'll talk tomorrow." She hit send before she could rethink it. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't reassurance. It wasn't anger. It was a placeholder. A way of saying, "I'm not gone. Not yet. But I need space to understand myself." She set the phone aside and crawled under the hotel duvet, pulling it up to her chin. The silence of the room felt too big, too revealing. In the darkness, she whispered to no one, "I don't want to lose him." A beat, but I don't want to lose myself either. Outside, waves lapped softly against the bay walls, repeating their own lonely rhythm. And somewhere in Seattle, she knew, Daniel was probably lying awake too, staring at a ceiling that felt even colder without her beside him. Seattle was still dark when Daniel woke, if he had slept at all. The sky outside the window was a murky slate color, the kind that blurred hours together and made morning feel indistinguishable from midnight. He sat up slowly, every muscle tight, as if bracing for another hit he couldn't see coming. Avery's message glowed faintly on his phone. "I'm here. Exhausted. We'll talk tomorrow." He reread it. Once, twice, a third time. It wasn't cold, but it wasn't warm either. It felt like a door that wasn't locked, but wasn't open. A cautious, halfway space where love still existed, but fear had grown louder. He typed a reply, then deleted it, typed again, deleted. He finally settled on silence, not out of punishment, but because he no longer trusted his ability to say things without breaking something further. Instead, he got ready for work mechanically, pulling on a shirt without noticing if it was the right one, buttoning it unevenly before correcting himself. The apartment felt wrong, too neat, too quiet, as if it were waiting for someone to return and disturb it back into life. He poured coffee he didn't finish. He left dishes he didn't wash. He forgot his umbrella in a city famous for rain. By the time he reached the office, a thin drizzle had already dampened his hair. Lights reflected off the wet pavement, making Seattle feel like a glass city, fragile, transparent, breakable. Inside, he dropped his bag at his desk and tried to lose himself in work. But thoughts kept drifting back to her message. What does tomorrow mean? After the conference? After she's sorted her feelings? After she's decided something I can't control? And under all of it, why did she need the world to witness her pain but not him? At 10:17 a.m., his phone buzzed. His pulse jumped, but it wasn't Avery. It was his coworker, Lena. Saw her new post. "Sorry if that's intrusive. Just wanted to check on you." Daniel frowned. New post? He opened Instagram reluctantly. Avery's latest story was a photo taken from her hotel balcony. Sunset dripping gold onto the bay. Sailboats floating like quiet thoughts. The caption read, "Trying to breathe again." He stared at the words longer than he intended. They weren't an attack, but they weren't neutral either. He wondered, was she trying to breathe from him, or from the fight? From her own guilt? From the noise she'd made online? He hated that he didn't know. Lena appeared beside his desk, holding a mug. "You okay?" she asked softly. Daniel forced a slow breath. "I'm trying." She nodded, hesitating. "If you ever need to talk, I'm around. Relationships can get complicated." He offered a polite smile, but felt himself retreating internally. He didn't want to be someone who discussed his marriage with coworkers. He didn't want to turn Avery into office gossip or a subplot in someone else's day. He wanted her, and clarity, and the version of them they used to be. Meanwhile, in San Diego, Avery stood barefoot on the warm balcony, her robe brushing against her knees. She had taken the photo impulsively. Sunset over water always made her feel steadier, calmer. But when she posted it, she immediately felt a pinch of regret. It wasn't meant to be a statement, but she knew Daniel might see it as one, and that thought made her chest ache. A soft knock sounded at her door. "Aves?" Jordan's voice. She hesitated before opening. "Hey." He held 2 iced coffees. "Thought you could use this. You look like you slept about 11 minutes. She took one, murmuring a quiet thanks. He stepped inside, glancing around the room but not touching anything, as if aware he was stepping into a private space. "So, want to talk about it?" Avery wrapped her arms around herself. "Not really, not yet." He nodded. "Okay, I'll shut up." A beat. "But you know I'm here if you need to unravel anything." She gave a small smile. "I know." They sat on the balcony rail, watching the water glitter below. For a moment, everything was still, peaceful. But then Jordan said gently, "He really hurt you, didn't he?" Avery felt her breath hitch. "It's not that simple." "Doesn't mean it's not true." She looked down at her coffee, swirling the ice. He wasn't trying to control me. I know that. I know he's scared. I just felt something break when he said it, like the trust between us shifted. And you posted because, she swallowed, because it felt easier to shout into a void than to sit with him and admit I'm terrified too. Jordan's expression softened. Terrified of what? She whispered, that we're becoming strangers. A moment passed between them, gentle, heavy, quiet. Jordan placed a hand over hers, not possessive, not romantic, just steady. You're not alone in this, okay? Avery nodded, but her heart pulled in two directions, toward the comfort beside her and the love waiting in Seattle, aching quietly. Back in Seattle, Daniel sat alone in a small break room, watching rain streak down the window. His phone buzzed once. A notification. From Avery. Can we talk tonight? After my sessions? His chest tightened, not with fear, but with hope that hurt to feel. He typed, yes, whenever you're ready. He didn't add anything else, didn't beg, didn't accuse, just open space for her to step into if she chose. When he hit send, the room felt less suffocating, not safer, but less silent. He leaned back in the chair, exhaling shakily. Two cities. Two people who once moved as one. Now separated by miles of misunderstanding, guilt, fear, and unsaid truths. Tonight, something would break, open or apart. He wasn't sure which outcome terrified him more. Night fell over both cities, Seattle wrapped in cold rain, San Diego cloaked in soft coastal warmth. For hours, Daniel moved through his apartment in slow, distracted motions, tidying things that didn't need tidying, aligning objects he usually ignored, checking his phone every few minutes without meaning to. By 8:43 p.m., it buzzed. Are you free? Can we talk now? His stomach tightened. Yes. Call me whenever you're ready. A few seconds passed. The screen lit up. Avery. FaceTime incoming. Daniel hesitated, just long enough to feel his pulse climb, then answered. Her face appeared on the screen, dimly lit by the hotel lamp behind her. Her hair was tied loosely, her eyes tired, her expression guarded, but she was there, real, breathing. Hey, she said softly. Hi. His voice cracked more than he intended. Silence curled around them, gentle but heavy. Avery looked away first. Thank you for picking up, she murmured. I always will, he said before he could stop himself. Her breath caught a little, and that alone made his chest ache. She shifted on the bed, pulling her knees up. Daniel, I know the last 2 days have been awful, and I know a lot of that is because of me. He didn't rush to comfort her. Not this time. He sensed she needed the space to say things cleanly without being cushioned. Avery continued, voice trembling. When we fought, when you asked me not to travel with Jordan, it wasn't the words that hurt. It was what it represented. It made me feel like the woman I swore I'd never become. Someone who reshapes her life around someone else's insecurities. Daniel swallowed hard. I wasn't trying to reshape your life. I was scared. I know, she said quickly. I do know that, but the fear on your side met the fear on mine, and we both reacted instead of talking. She paused. And I made it worse by posting online. That was impulsive and unfair. That acknowledgement struck him deeper than he expected. Avery, those posts, they made me feel like I was a villain in a story I didn't recognize. She winced. I know. I'm sorry. I was angry and hurt, and I didn't want to talk to anyone in my real life, so I threw a sentence into the internet and let strangers clap for it. It was childish. Daniel exhaled slowly. I wasn't controlling you. I was afraid of losing you. Afraid that Jordan meant something I didn't understand.
Avery lifted her gaze. He doesn't. Not like that. Daniel, there's nothing romantic between us. He's been my friend since college. But, her voice softened, he's been someone I confide in when I feel misunderstood, and that's the part I think hurt you most. Daniel's jaw tightened, not out of anger, but recognition. Yeah, he whispered, that's the part. She didn't look away this time. It wasn't a choice to replace you with him. It was easier, emotionally, and easy doesn't always mean right. He nodded, grounding himself with a slow inhale. Avery continued, quieter now. When I left yesterday, I felt suffocated, but today I felt the consequences of the space I created, and it scared me. My posts, my silence, my distance, they weren't just about the argument. They were about something inside me I haven't dealt with. What's that? He asked gently. Avery swallowed, eyes glistening. I'm afraid of how much I love you, and that fear makes me keep a part of myself hidden. I push away before I feel owned. I create a crisis before I feel weak. I run when I should talk. Daniel's breath shook. You don't have to hide from me. I do, she whispered, because I don't know how not to, not yet. He felt that sentence like a thread pulled tight between them. Daniel leaned closer to the screen. Avery, I don't want you owned. I want you with me. There's a difference. She closed her eyes as if absorbing that, letting it settle in her chest. When she opened them again, something was softer. We can't keep going like this, she murmured, hurting each other because we're scared to say the truth out loud. What is the truth? He asked. She held his gaze. That we love each other. But we're carrying wounds from before we met. Patterns we didn't fix, fears we never admitted. And when they collide, we mistake them for character flaws in the other person. Daniel nodded slowly. Then let's fix it. I want to, she whispered, but it won't be overnight. I need therapy. I need to understand why expressing independence feels like rebellion, and why intimacy sometimes feels like a trap. And I need to understand why fear makes me try to control outcomes, he added. Why I think protecting us means tightening my grip when it should mean loosening it. For the first time in days, they exhaled at the same time. Avery wiped her cheek. Daniel, are we okay? He didn't rush the answer. He let it form, honestly. We're not okay, he said softly. But we're not broken either. We're in the part no one writes stories about, the messy middle, the part where two people decide whether love is something worth rebuilding. Her lips trembled. Do you want to rebuild with me? More than anything. A long silence, warm this time, stretched between them. Finally, she nodded. When I come home, can we start over? Not as new people, but as ourselves. Just more honest. He nodded. We can start slow. We can start scared, but yes, we'll start. She let out a shaky breath, relief flooding her features. Daniel? Yeah? She whispered, I'm sorry for hurting you. And I'm sorry for hurting you too. They didn't say, I love you out loud, not because it wasn't true, but because tonight wasn't about declarations. It was about choosing each other in the quiet, about beginning the long work of unlearning their fears, about meeting again, not as perfect lovers, but as flawed people willing to stay. When the call ended, both cities felt lighter. San Diego shimmered, Seattle softened, and somewhere between them, between two screens, two hearts, two silences, a bridge was being rebuilt, one honest word at a time.